What's the difference between this one and this one?
They're not on the board.
Jebediah Springfield. Well, it was on the board, and then I changed nothing. I did record. We're good. Okay, Jenna asked, what's the difference between this one and this one? What are we solving for in the right one here? No, our regular payment. This one we're asking what the previous value was. We'll do a question on this one next. PV, previous value. Okay. So let's plug it in.
Yeah. You just said TV. Yeah.
Right, 20,000.
Oh, yeah.
Pardon? Yeah.
All of these
All those are. There's one under. I'll get there.
This one might work.
Yes.
That's the same method.
A little bit different because we got to go 1 minus this.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, it's negative. Sorry. There's a negative up here in the equation. Remember that. Look good. So what I would do, Owen, since you're interested, I would, if I were doing this calculation, one minus, I would do this calculation first with this here, okay? What? It's mixed. This? This is.
What is mixed?
I'll talk to 1 plus. What's that? Let me do this first. You confuse me. So if I were doing this calculation in my calculator, Pateo, I would go 0.049 divided by 12 equals, and I get that number, and I put it under here. 0.0041. Okay, but then I continue, I would do all this first. I would do this section first. Does that make sense? I wrote down the bottom there because that's the same number as that starting, right? So my very first thing I do in my calculator is going to be the bottom number there. Plus 1 equals to the power of negative 60. So I have this number here. So it's going to be if you can put it all in at once, go nuts. So I'm showing you the way I do it. If you can do it all at once, go with it. One second. Negative 60, because there's a negative up there. Okay? So what did you do so far? That is 0.049. Want me to do it again? So I did 0.049 divided by 12. I agree. That gave me 0.004, and I wrote that number down here because that's the bottom. Pardon? I rounded. Right? I wrote that down here just so I could save that number for later. Then I went +1, then to the power of -60 equals, there's where I get that number from. Okay? It is. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 minus this number. So 1 minus 0.783. Press equal. And then divide it by this number. Divided by 0.0041. That's going to give me my number right here. 52.93. It's just calculator steps. It is. I didn't say it was easy. I just said there's no mathematical, there's no algebra in here. It's just doing it in your calculator. Then I'm going to go 20,000
Where did the square go?
divided by 2.93, which will tell me my monthly payment to pay off my car is 377.86. Yeah, as long as you're within the same neighborhood. What'd you get? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. It's just rounding. She might have rounded a little different than I did.
No, I did it all in at once.
Yeah. So, if I were using my TVM solver here, I would write 20,000 here, as in I owe $20,000. My future value, I want to be 0. I want to have nothing left on my loan. I'm paying 4.9%. My periods is 60, and it's monthly. Does that make sense how I typed it in there? Then I would just write what's my payment? 376.51. So the reason my number is 377 is because I did rounding, right? I didn't keep the number exactly the same. So that being said, if you're within a couple dollars on either side, you're correct. I'm not going to take marks off because you don't have as good of a calculator as another person. 65%. Yep. Check your answer, then you can go back and fix it. Yep. If this is the only thing you do.
No, but if you do the thing and then you check it, that's not.
Okay. I have a second question here for you once I answer Kyle's question. Go, Kyle. Yeah. Here's my question for you. How much did you pay for the car? No. That's my monthly payment. How much did I actually pay for the car? No. How many times did I do a monthly payment? I did it 60 times. Does that make sense? Over the 5 years, there were 60 months, so I made 60 payments. Does that make sense, everyone? What was my monthly payment? 377.86. So if I multiply this by this, it's going to give me how much I actually paid for the car. 20,000 was how much so when you went to the bank, when you went to the car dealership, 20,000 was the sale price on the car. That was the end price of it. But then they gave you a loan to help pay for the car at 4.9%. You have to pay some of the loan. So how much do you actually pay for it? I'm just going to times this number by 60. I actually paid $22,671.45. Of course, a minivan. Okay. So The actual price I paid was $22,000. Does that make sense to everybody? I didn't pay $20,000. Pardon? That's with the interest. Amelia. Yeah, so how much interest did I pay? I take this number and minus off 20,000. Which would be 2,671.45. Not really, 4.9% is pretty good. Now, the difference here too, here, let's do this. I want you guys to redo this calculation, but this time you are going to pay the car off in 3 years. Actually, no, let's not do 3 years. Let's pay it off in 8 years. So you have a lower car payment. Let's say you can't afford $377. And the person at the dealership goes, how about we extend it over 8 years instead? So from 5 years to 8 years. Not quite. This is like the most applicable thing with car loans you'll do.
My favorite. He's so funny.
Okay, where you go? I want you to redo this for 8 years. Okay?
So are we using the same divided by formula?
Yep. But this is where you'll go into a car dealership. And what they'll do to, like, you'll pick the car you want. And to fit the car payment you can afford, they'll adjust the term of it. They'll make it longer term, as in you'll pay it over a longer number of years, or shorter term. And it's very good to understand what a longer term means for what you're going to pay outright. Sage. Let's rock and roll here.
Size?
What's 550?
I could never go back to this one. I think it's heavy, so I dropped it a lot.
It is lots.
When are we doing our culminating on this?
I don't know if I have one.
You asked that question, Miss Brooke.
We got to discuss today what we want to do for 0.0041.
What?
So let me do my
Did you
up.
snap? Did you snap?
Sage.
Oh, no, they reply.
About to throw you out the window.
Isn't this the same as what we just did?
But it is. But this number is going to be different, right?
One question takes up like half the.
I agree.
My mom does it all the time. What did you say? I said it's actually like she didn't say it. She said, remember when you asked on that one Friday? She said no. So.
And in all honesty, if you get annoyed with your calculations of how to do them, maybe go visit. Learn how to calculate it all at once.
Taylor, you're so smart. There were. I got a negative.
Maybe don't visit Pateo.
0. Okay, so you divide by 0.049. So you divide by R over N. Oh, I see what I did wrong.
R over N is 0.049. 12. This divided by this is. Those two numbers are the same.
So the one above is the same, so why don't you just put 0.049 there? Why can't they put -1 plus 1 just cancel out?
Doesn't work.
You know what I mean?
Say what you're. What are you saying to me now?
Okay, there's two 0.049s, right?
Correct. This
Why
one.
did you change the one on the bottom to just 0.049 instead of both?
Okay, this one and this one, because that one is in that number, right? I went like to get that number. I went 0.049 divided by 12 plus 1 to the power of negative 96, and
what?
to get this number here.
Okay.
Now I'm
And
looking.
why did it change to 0.041? Like, why is that 0.041 now?
Because I did the calculation here, so when I go to plug it in my calculator, when I go whatever this number is divided by this number, I can just put in 0.0041 instead of a fraction.
0.49.
Divided by 12. So this number here equals this number here.
Okay.
So I just wrote it like this
Down there.
down here because when I go to do this calculation, it's a lot easier for me to go 1 minus this equals divided by 0.041 instead of 1 minus this divided by 0.049 divided by 12. Does that make sense?
Sure. I like understand where you got there, but your numbers are messing up.
Yeah, there's a lot of numbers.
Oh.
Something around 253? Okay. That's it. You're around there. So, if you look here, our payments are smaller. Do you agree with me? You're only paying $253 a month compared to $377 a month. And if you're a person who can't afford, if you could only afford $300 a month for a car, this is much more appealing. You can afford this, right? You can't afford this number, correct? So let's figure out how much you're actually paying for the car in the long run. How many monthly payments am I making this time? All right, 96. So I'm going to times this number times 96.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that number. Pardon? To get this number, I went 0.049 divided by 12 equals plus 1 equals to the power of negative 96. Tell me that number. So if you look here, I paid $24,000 overall. So therefore I paid $4,297.65 interest, right? Minus off 20,000. So even though my payment was lower, but I ended up paying what, almost 1,500 more interest. 0.049 divided by 12 plus 1 equals, and then to the power of negative 96. So do you guys see how extending my term, I actually pay more interest? My monthly payments are less, which is good. But how much I pay in interest is more, which is bad. Now, in some ways, you might need to do this. Like if you need a car, you only have $300. But what you can do with some loans is, like, let's say you start off at a job at an entry-level position, so you're making a little bit of money. But after 2 years, you get promoted, so you make more money. You can put more money on your car loan every month, right? So you could pay off, it wouldn't have to wait 8 years. You can maybe pay it off all in one chunk. Right? But sometimes they have penalties for that too. As in, like, my wife and I were looking for our mortgage. This is just like a mortgage. Wife and I were looking last year with our mortgage, being like, oh, the interest rates are so low. Could we like break our mortgage right now, like make a payment to break our mortgage, and then refinance? But the penalty for like stopping our mortgage was too high. Like when you did the math of it, it would have cost us like $5,000 to break it, let's say. But the savings we'd have in the next 5 years if we broke and got a lower interest rate was only $4,000. So it wasn't worth it at that time. All right, let's do another one.
Thank God you guys are smart, eh?
You got to think.
I think you can figure that out. Like,
But you also go ask like my wife asked the banker about it. Said, we're thinking about doing this. Is it good for us? And she ran the numbers for us. But then we could look it up. No, but then we looked at it again. We saw her numbers, right? And looked at it again. Let's say I like these questions. Brooke is going away for school.
you're sending me away?
We should send her to Iceland.
You sound like my mother.
Oops. I think Iceland's the place for guys, not girls. Because I think Iceland has like 2.5 girls to every guy in the country. It's like but there's more girls than guys. That's because a really weird fact, in utero, you guys know what in utero is? While the child's in the uterus, boys are much more fragile than girls. So if you go, there's places where there's been like, for lack of a word, like toxic waste in the water, for lack of a word, like where water isn't good. No. So what happens is there's more girls born than boys born in places where like where miscarriage is more apt to happen. Boys are more apt to not make it through pregnancy than, yeah. So, but you would like for most births, like you wouldn't even know, like it wouldn't. It would happen in like the first 2 weeks where the egg wouldn't attach, but the boy's egg wouldn't attach, and it would just be a regular cycle for a girl. Where girls' egg. So you go to some places and there's like a 5-to-1 girl to boy ratio. There's something. Boys are much more fragile than girls. What I'm saying. Okay. So let's say O wants to pay Brooke. $150 per month while she goes to school for the next 4 years. Okay? So $150 to pay for Starbucks every. How much would Starbucks? All right. So.
You're gonna drop my watch and
Okay, here we go. Here's the question. Okay, Brooke is looking to go away for school really far. Mr. O will pay her $150 a month to go away.
You're gonna pay me?
For the next 4 years.
Okay. I
Okay.
want an initial payment.
How much money do I need to put in the bank today so it pays Brooke $150 a month through the rest of the. No. No, I'm paying her monthly. So which one am I looking for? do I know my regular payment or am I searching for my regular payment? Shh, quiet, please. Do I know my regular payment or am I searching for it? I know my regular payment.
I said it first.
All right. So this time I'm trying to figure out how much money do I need to put in the bank to pay out a regular amount, right? If I wanted to set up a scholarship for the next 10 years, how much money do I put in the scholarship now that it pays out? Like for Brooke here, I'm gonna put a money in, and then it's gonna pull out $150 every month for the next 4 years, and 4 years later, on the very last day, there's nothing in that bank account, right? So fill in your info. Monthly. Your new name is Sheldon. Okay. You guys ever watch Big Bang Theory?
Yes.
And Sheldon had a bathroom schedule. And I can pretty much set my clock at around 9:55, between 9:55 and 10. That Brooke every day around 9:55 or 10 will be, I have to go to the washroom. Does that make sense there? All my numbers? So $150 my regular payment that Brooke's gonna get. Okay, my interest rate's 6%. It's gonna be. I enjoy this unit.
You're very enthusiastic about this.
It's monthly, and the time is I'm paying her for 4 years. And then we'll plug it into our. So we're looking for our previous value. How much do I have to put in previously to pay it out?
Someone call that free. Trust me, I call it dirty all the time.
Wow.
He looked at him and he's like, those are ugly. And then I was looking at
Sage, you are so
He's like, nah.
popcorn today. Like, you know, popcorn when you cook it pops all over the place. It's like everywhere.
But like, she broke I think that like a nice juice.
Well, why did you have your pen pointed at her face?
I didn't need it. It just didn't happen. Oh, she's telling me a story about. She's very.
Okay. Do this.
So I'm going to go 0.06 divided by 12 to get my number at the bottom. Four times 12 is monthly times years.
No, like what's the answer?
Oh, 48. Negative 48.
I go out of time. I need time.
That's fine. Just keep working with it.
How do you turn that off?
There is a setting for it. Not right now.
It'll
Can
turn
we
off.
go over the calculations again? Like my brain is.
Yeah,
What does this little king mean?
that is scientific notation.
Pardon?
Scientific notation.
You have to bring it back to how many things is negative.
What?
Like what is it? 10 to the power of what?
It's
It's like
5.0.
5x 10 negative 3.
Okay,
No, what
look
is
at. I got it up here.
So
Go
at
back.
the end, it's
Go
10
back.
to the power of what?
Go back.
Negative 3.
So watch. I have it up here. Look up here.
Move the decimal back
So,
and replace it.
Take this. If it's negative, it's going this way. So I move this decimal back 1, 2, 3.
Why don't you just put zeros in?
Then you put zeros in.
So what's my answer?
0.005.
Oh, probably.
Kyle, what are you doing?
Okay, how do I?
So watch how I do this calculation first. This is how I do it.
So why do you never do the 0.005? Always do 0.005.
Because it's easier to type in. Okay, plus 1. Plus 1, I get this. Are you with me, bro?
No, I'm trying to do my own research.
Okay. To the power of negative 48. Okay.
I got an error.
So first thing I do 0.06 divided by 12.
Is this looking correct?
Oh, sorry. 0.06 divided by 12.
What are you doing? I don't want to block the screen for the people. Why is it
No,
like
no.
one?
This,
That's not going to be
the negative 48 is on that. Negative 48 is on that.
So do I do it? So do I do this thing first?
To the power.
And then divide by this
So
and then multiply
watch how I do it. I'll go with it with you right now. Okay.
When I do 1 plus 0.06 divided by 12, I get 1 plus 0.05.
Yeah, that's right.
But why is your number?
I haven't plus 1 to it yet. Okay. Emma, I'm starting right now.
And then you put it to the
So
power.
I go plus 1 here, and I'm here.
And then do you have the power?
Then to the power of negative 48
1.005 to the power of negative 48.
equals.
0.7870.
So I write that down here. Okay.
I wanted to go into this one.
Okay.
Okay, now I put, what about the negative 1?
1 minus this.
1 minus 0.787
Divided by
divided by
0.05. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, we already did the power. So, whoa, no, minus 1.
1 minus answer.
So 1 minus answer, yeah. 1 minus 0.787 equals,
0.212.
yeah, yeah. Then divide that by 0.005. Then divide by 0.005 equals,
42.5.
yeah. And then multiply that by 150.
Times, wait, what?
Multiply this number by 150.
Can I go pee? 6,387.
How did you just get 42?
I went 1 minus this
Oh my God.
divided by 0.005. I went 1 minus this equals,
Is it break time? I'm like, oh my
it's
God.
getting close. Okay, how many people were able to get that number? All right. Now here's my question. How much interest did I make? So let's figure out how much money did I pay Brooke? How much money, how would I figure out how much money I actually paid Brooke? No.
You get 42.6.
Yeah. 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 How much money did I pay Brooke? Well, how much did I pay her per month? 150 times, how many months did I pay her? 48. Okay. So, yeah, that's right. So I actually paid Brooke $7,200
Total
total
over 6 years.
over 4 years. But how much money did I put in? I only put in this much. 150 times 48.
Are you gonna have to do that?
Well, I might ask that.
But that's not even part of the calculation.
Correct. But this is how much. The question is, how much interest did I make on my investment? So I paid her 7,200. Correct.
How did you make it that much?
150 per month times 48 months. Yeah. Okay. That I actually paid her this much, but I only invested this much. So my interest is going to be the difference between these two.
Why did it go up?
Because, one second here. What number is that? I agree. Let me do this here. So I actually made $810 on my. So what happens there? No, I get paid interest, but the interest ends up going to Brooke. So watch what happens. So this is just a very rough estimate. I throw in this much money on day 0, right? After a month, this is going to earn some interest, right? Because I'm investing it. So it's going to earn a little bit of interest. Let's say, for example, after the first month, I have $4,500. It made $60. At the end of that month, I'm also going to take off $150 that comes out for Brooke. So now I have $6,300. So I put the money in, right? I put the money in. During the first month, it earns a little bit of money.
Why?
Because I invested it. What's happening right now is I'm investing it
Into like trades or something?
into a guaranteed rate. Trades are, we can go into like stocks and bonds, not right now. But I get a guaranteed, what percent did I get? 6%. It's going to make a little bit of money while it's in the bank. And then Brooke's going to take out 150. Then over the next month, it's going to make a little bit more money again. Right? So I'm making money, but as that's happening, I'm taking out chunks of money. So even though I'm making money, but it's also going down in value because it keeps getting money taken out of it. And the very last month, I'm going to have 150, and then Brooke's going to pluck the money tree dry, and we're going to be left with 0. I can. Okay? So that was a longer lesson, but I think we understand the concept, don't we? So you guys have the next block of time is for you to catch up on homework from today. You can do your homework from today. If you didn't do any homework or you have questions about the previous 2 days or 3 days of financial work. Does that make sense? But you have all next period to work.
Thank you.
No. We'll discuss what your financial thing will be at after the bell. Okay?
Is that your favorite shirt?
No, I think there's a brighter one.
I'm going pee.
This is my favorite color shirt. Yeah.
Stop announcing it, bro. Get out.
Yeah.
Sir, can you have me go for a walk? Thank you. I'm Nancy and I'm
Go ahead.
I think you should go for a walk.
Oh, pause here. I forgot one thing. Where's my answer here? How would I plug this into my TVM solver? I would go like this. My present value, I don't know. That's what I don't know, correct? I know my future value is going to be 0. I know my payment is going to be 150. Does that make sense? My interest rate was 6, and I had 48 periods, 4 times 12. Then I just have to click on future value, previous value. And there's my answer. Right? So if you're ever using a TVM software, oh, damn it. Sorry, Francine. Emilia, you didn't remind me. I need another sticky note. Pardon?
Do you still get people late?
Yeah.
You still do?
Well, if you're late, you're late.
Yeah, but it's too late. You should just mark it as if you got late.
No.
Okay, how many weeks do I have?
Well, I don't mark, if you're coming like 2 minutes late, I don't mark that as late.
Mr. Carboni, I need to come late every day, and I didn't realize because he would still be nice and like sweet and talk to me in the morning. And then I got my report card and I had like 20 late.
Yeah, well, you're late.
I wasn't even like that.
Were you before or after the bell? Pardon? If you're after the bell, you're late.
Yeah, but like, why was he still so nice and he never told me how?
Because it's nothing personal.
But
We don't get mad at kids for being late. There's a natural consequence for it.
normally don't be like you're late. Like, you're on time. So I never realized I was late.